everybody, and welcome to Citrus Quest. I'm your host, Ichabod Orange. Once Discord wants to start working, I have my producer, Bridge Building Heathen, with me as well. We're doing a show. I have no idea if she can hear me. Nothing seems to be running correctly at this exact moment, so I'm doing what I can.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. All right.
So we've got a few topics to take a look at. I'm not sure how well everything is working because, of course, nothing wants to work correctly the second I turn on Discord. So gonna just basically do what I can. Britt, did you have some stuff you wanted to talk about on the show, or?
Yeah, we have a few different articles that were lined up. If you wanted to just jump right into those, or
Yeah, we can just jump into the articles. Do you want to send them to me, or?
I can do that. Sure. I sent them to Wolfie earlier, but yes, I absolutely can resend them to you. The first one was kind of the darkest of the three topics we were going to cover tonight, and they all somewhat tie together in a weird way.
Okay.
At least in the end. So this was the first dark one, but it actually kind of went well in the end.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this pulled up without crashing everything. An article by the New York Times, it seems to be. As a note for those listening, I am not feeling well, so there may be a somewhat lack of the jovial
Vigor, and pep.
the jovial nature that you would normally get from the show. So I'm a bit tired.
I will try to help spice things up towards the end a bit.
From Lenkisum, Kenya. The first time cutting season came around, Nice Lengente and her older sister ran away and hid all night in a tree. The second time, her sister refused to hide. For Maasai families, the cutting ceremony is a celebration that transforms girls into women and marks daughters as eligible brides. But to 8-year-old Nice, it seems like a threat. She'd be held down by bigger, stronger women, and her clitoris would be cut. She'd bleed, quite a bit. Most girls fainted, some died. Still, her sister gave in. I had tried to tell her we are running for something that's worth it, recalled Miss Lingette, now 27, but I couldn't help her. Miss Lingette never forgot what her sister suffered, and as she grew up, she was determined to protect other Maasai girls. She started a program that goes village to village, collaborating with elders and girls to create a new rite of passage without the cutting. In 7 years, she's helped more than 15,000 girls avoid the cutting ritual. And then there is quite a few pictures. Her work mirrors national and global trends. Rates of female genital cutting worldwide have fallen 14% in the last 30 years. Here in Kenya, cases have fallen more than twice that fast. New laws have made a difference here and elsewhere. Kenya outlawed female genital cutting in 2011, and a special unit for investigating cutting cases opened in 2014. Prosecuted 76 cases in its first 2 years. But laws made in the capital often have little effect on culture in the countryside, where custom is deeply ingrained and men's power is virtually absolute. In Maasai country, male elders enforce the customs, and the cut has long been one of the most important. The belief has been that women aren't women unless they are cut, which means men can't take them as wives. Much of how Maasai society is organized relies in one way or another on that ritual. So the fight against female genital cutting, experts agree, needs Miss Langet's kind of work. Persuading village after village and elder after elder to overturn centuries-old custom. Every community has their own reasons for why they cut their girls, said Christine Nanjala, who leads the special prosecution unit. You're dealing with culture, and when you're dealing with culture, you're dealing with the identity of a community. Some rural old man asked us, what will we call this woman who is all grown up, married, has children, and is not circumcised, she added. They do not have a name for such a kind of woman. Sure they do, it's woman. Miss Langet's community did not have a name for her. It's a very bad name in my native tongue. She said one meant to shame a whole family. That shame is one reason families pressure reluctant girls. Miss Langet's grandfather, her guardian, took a gentler approach and asked her, after her second escape, to explain herself. I'm only 8, she remembered telling him. Wait until I'm 9, she added. I was trying to bargain. But when he brought it up again, she still refused. I told him I will never come back, even if it means being a street child, she said. When I realized I wanted to run away from him forever, he said. Let's leave her. When she wants to go, she will tell us. Miss Langet remembered. Her grandfather was an elder, so he couldn't be overruled, but the community still ostracized her. Families wouldn't let me play with their daughters, she said over lunch at a Nairobi cafe. Everyone saw me as a bad example. Someone who disrespected her family and went against the ways of the culture, or the community. Things were different for her sister. After the cutting ceremony, she was taken out of school and, at age 12, married off to an abusive older man. She had 3 children. Miss Langet, meanwhile, began to remake her reputation. When she became the first girl in her village to go to high school, she noticed that younger Maasai girls admired her uniform. She asked them if they wanted to be like her. I wanted to show them I am happy with my new life. She told the girls that she had opportunities because she had refused the cut, and soon some turned up at her house, fleeing the ceremony just as she had. Because she helped them, she had to hide again. The Morans wanted to beat me, she said, using the Maasai word for younger men who assist the elders in defending the community's customs. So she changed her approach. She would bargain with the elders just as she had bargained with her grandfather, but it wouldn't be easy. So, how far am I going into this? Because I doubt the chat really wants me to just ramble off an entire article.
Of course, of course. I mean, further on down the thing, there is a story of one other girl in that article that was pretty relevant, where the girl was essentially talking about how, let me see if I can remember off the top of my head since I don't have the article in front of me at the moment. But essentially there was a younger girl who had difficulty convincing her family quite a bit and wound up it's like towards the very, very bottom of the article, I think. But basically there's this one 13-year-old girl who kind of became the poster child against
female genital.
Some of what was going on. Right. Because among other things, she used that partly as she basically became kind of someone who would go around with the woman who started the program and talk to different CEOs and stuff. And one of the things that was actually what was used to impress that girl's father into not forcing her to it, simply because it's like, oh, it's like the family has now gotten the prestige of like talking to CEOs and things with companies that are in Africa and whatnot that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And he's starting to see, oh, my daughter can actually learn to network and make connections and be in business and do things and stuff with this. And,
yeah.
You know, that there's, you know, I mean, basically it's an interesting balance because it's like with the SJWs kind of going off all the time about stupid crap that doesn't matter. And, you know, people on the flip side acting like, well, you know, I mean, I've definitely heard some people on the right say things like, oh, well, we should go back to women not having the right to vote and stuff. It's kind of worth remembering that there's a very real. There are areas of the world where there are very real problems that kind of. There actually are real inequalities, essentially. And there are definitely, like, there are places where women don't get the opportunity to go to school, where they're married off as child brides and whatnot else, and that even sometimes apparently happens in some communities in the U.S. underground. I was doing some research earlier, but yeah, it's just there are all of these people talking about all of this other bullcrap that doesn't matter, and yet at the same time, you have people who really do need help, and some of them are even right in your own backyard, and you don't even realize it. And yeah,
I feel in some way I would be remiss if I did not mention male genital mutilation as well.
Yes, very true.
There's no reason to butcher a child in any way, shape, or form. I don't care how many customs you have. I don't care what fucking particular custom you come from. I don't care if
even if you're
Jewish
talking
or
about the Jewish,
Mabazi.
the thing about the Jewish kind, right? The thing about the Jewish kind is that it's not even as extreme as the main one practiced in America. The U.S. hospitals and doctors take way too much of the foreskin, even by Jewish standards, at this current point in time.
The way I figure it, there's no reason to mutilate a child for any reason. I don't care how religious it is.
No.
But, yeah, no, I would not say that it is appropriate in any way to do something like this. There is a point in time where you can abandon custom in favor of scientific advancement.
Yes.
I had gotten a request a day ago to talk about pineapple being an acceptable topping on pizza.
Again?
Apparently. I have my own issues with it, but any particular thoughts?
I'm in favor of it, so I'm just gonna duck over here and be a heathen. Other things. Apparently, another thing that's been in the news is the Pledge of Allegiance is back.
Okay.
And on the one hand side, apparently there was some incident with a girl who was having a massive nosebleed, and she was in the nurse's office, and the school reception apparently. The school receptionist got mad at her that she didn't stand up for the pledge, even though she was had a shirt covered in blood and was clearly losing blood. And it's caused this thing on the left about being able to exempt kids from the pledge, especially with atheist parents and whatnot else. And I've been seeing other memes going around it's stupid to want to be exempt from the pledge or sit out or what have you. And I mean, I can see kind of both sides of it, honestly. But I feel like if it's a free country, nobody should be forced to say anything. If you want to sit out quietly, you should be allowed to sit out quietly,
It's an acceptable concept to sit out for something like the pledge. You're not required to sit there and say it, but it is a respect thing. You are a citizen of a certain country. It's not that big a deal. I'm gonna say the same crap that I used to say when it was just when I would sit here and say, hey, you don't have to add under God into it. Just omit the parts you don't believe. Or just stand up, put your hand over your heart, and say fucking nothing.
I mean, unless you might be losing blood, then probably best not to.
Yeah. If you're losing blood, the usual, do what you can. But overall...
Or if you're in a wheelchair. I'm just thinking about that. Anyway, uh, moving on. Did you want me to go ahead and read the anthropology articles I had?
Would you mind reading the next one? I'm tired.
Oh no, absolutely. I can read these if you wish me to. Um, they are meant to be entertaining. And see, we essentially went from tribal cultures to the United States, and now we will also be looking at tribal cultures yet again.
Sorry.
I'm trying to load my browser and Discord at the same time, and on this device, it does not always enjoy that.
Fair enough. That explains why you're cutting out. I thought it was my computer for a second there.
Is it a little more stable now?
Yeah, it's more stable now. Lucian Fatima says in the chat, geez, I didn't do the pledge at all in high school, fascist crap. Wolfie says, I say the Pledge of Allegiance without saying under God, I change it to under Gods. Lucian again with exception being the one semester I was in Spanish foreign language class, since the teacher wanted us to say it in Mexican dialect Spanish for practice.
Okay, well, right now we are going to be looking at the sacred rack. An Indian anthropologist, Chandra Thapar, made a study of foreign culture, which had customs similar to those of his native land. One culture in particular fascinated him because it reveres one animal as sacred, much as the people in India revere the cow. The tribe Dr. Thapar studied is called the Asu, and it is found on the American continent, north of the Tarahumara of Mexico. Though it seems to be a highly developed society of its type, it has an overwhelming preoccupation with the care and feeding of the rack, an animal much like a bull in size, strength, and temperament. In the Asu tribe, it is almost a social obligation to own at least one, if not more, racks. Anyone not possessing at least one is held in low esteem by the community because he is too poor to maintain one of these beasts properly. Some members of the tribe, to display their wealth and social prestige, even own herds of racks. Unfortunately, the rack breed is not very healthy and usually does not live more than 5 to 7 years, for it has a tendency to throw its shoes often. There are rack specialists in each community, perhaps more than one if the community is particularly wealthy. These specialists, however, due to long periods of ritual training they must undergo, and the difficulty of obtaining the right selection of charms to treat the rack, demand costly offerings whenever a tribesman must treat his ailing rack. At the age of 16 in many Asu communities, many youth go puberty rite in which the rack figures prominently. The youth must petition a high priest in a grand temple. He is then initiated into the ceremonies that surround the care of the rack and is permitted to keep one. Although it may be used as a beast of burden, it has many habits which would be considered by other cultures as harmful to the life of society. In the first place, this breed is increasing at a very rapid rate, and the Asu tribesmen have given no thought to limiting its population. As a consequence, the Asu must build more and more paths for the rack to travel on, since its delicate health and its love of running at high speeds necessitates that special areas be set aside for its use. The cost of smoothing the earth is too costly for any one individual to undertake, so it has become a community project, and each tribesman must pay an annual tax to build new paths and maintain the old. There are so many paths needed that some people move their homes because the rack paths must be as straight as possible to keep the animal from injuring itself. Dr. Thapar also noted that unlike the cow, which many people in his country hold sacred, the excrement of the rack can neither be used as fuel nor fertilizer. On the contrary, its excrement is particularly foul and totally useless. Worst of all, the rack is prone to stampedes in which it runs down everything in its path, much like stampeding cattle. Estimates are that the rack kills thousands of Asu in the year. Despite the high cost of its upkeep and the damage it does to land, and its habit of destructive stampedes, the Asu is still regarded as being essential to the survival of their culture. And then I was going to read another one. if it will load properly, which it might not. Let me try to reload it.
Technical difficulties.
Body rituals among the Nakarima. The anthropologist has become so familiar with the diversity of ways in which different peoples behave in similar situations that he is not apt to be surprised by even the most exotic customs. In fact, of all the logically possible combinations of behavior which have not been found somewhere in the world, he is apt to suspect that they may be present in some yet undescribed tribe. This point has, in fact, been expressed with respect to clan organization by Murdoch in 1949. In this light, the magical beliefs and practices of the Nakarima present such unusual aspects that it seems desirable to describe them as examples of the extremes to which human behavior can go. Professor Linton first brought the ritual of the Nakarima to the attention of anthropologists 20 years ago. But the culture of this people is still very poorly understood. They are a group living in the territory between the Cree Indians, the Yaqui and the Tarahumare of Mexico, and the Caribbean Arawak of the Antilles. Little is known of their origin, although tradition states that they come from the east. According to Nakarima mythology, it was originated by a cultural hero, Natingsaw, who is otherwise known for two great feats of strength. Nakarima culture is characterized by a highly developed market economy, which has evolved a rich natural habitat. While much of the people's time is devoted to economic pursuits, a large part of the fruits of these labors and a considerable portion of the day are spent in ritual activity. The focus of this activity is the human body, the appearance and health of which loom as a dominant concern in the ethos of the people. While such a concern is certainly not unusual, its ceremonial aspects and associated philosophy are unique. The fundamental belief underlying the whole appears to be that the human body is ugly and that its natural tendency is to debility and disease. Incarcerated in such a body, man's only hope is to avert these characteristics through the use of powerful influences of ritual and ceremony. Every household has shrines devoted to this purpose. The most powerful individuals in society have several in their houses, and in fact, the opulence of the house is often referred to in the number of such ritual centers it possesses. Most houses are of wattle and double construct, but the shrine rooms of the more wealthy are walled with stone. Poor families imitate the rich by applying pottery plaques to their shrine walls. While each family has at least one such shrine, the rituals associated with it are not family ceremonies, but are private and secret. The rites are normally only children, and then only during the period when they are being initiated into these mysteries. I was, however, able to establish sufficient rapport with the natives to examine these shrines and to have the rituals described to me. The focal point of the shrine is a box or chest which is built into the wall. In this chest are kept the many charms and magical potions without which no native believes he could live. These preparations are secured from a variety of specialized practitioners. The most powerful of these are the medicine men, whose assistance must be rewarded with substantial gifts. However, the medicine men do provide the curative potions for their clients, but decide what the ingredients should be and then write them down in an ancient and secret language. This writing is understood only by the medicine man and the herbalists who, for another gift, provide the required charm. The charm is not disposed of after it has served its purpose, but is placed in the charm box of the household shrine. As these magical materials are specific for certain ills and the real or imagined maladies of the people are many, the charm box is usually filled to overflowing. The magical packets are so numerous that people forget what their purposes were and fear to use them again. While the natives are very vague on this point, I'm sorry, I'm messing it up. While the natives are very vague on this point, we can only assume that the idea in retaining all the old magical materials is that their presence in the charm box, before which the body rituals are conducted, will in some way protect the worshipper. Beneath the charm box is a small font. Every day, every member of the family in succession enters the shrine room, bows his head before the charm box, mingles different sorts of holy water in the font, and proceeds with a brief rite of ablution. The holy waters are secured from the water temple of the community, where the priests conduct elaborate ceremonies to make the liquid ritually pure. In the hierarchy of magical practitioners, and below the medicine men in prestige, are specialists whose designation is best translated as holy mouth men. The Nakarima have an almost pathological horror of and fascination with the mouth. the condition of which is believed to have a supernatural influence on all social relationships. Were it not for the rituals of the mouth, they believe their teeth would fall out, their gums bleed, their jaws shrink, their friends desert them, and their lovers reject them. They also believe that a strong relationship exists between oral and moral characteristics. For example, there is a ritual ablution of the mouth for children which is supposed to improve their moral fiber. The daily body ritual performed by everyone includes a mouth rite. Despite the fact that these people are so punctilious about the care of the mouth, this rite involves a practice which strikes the uninitiated stranger as revolting. It is reported to me that the ritual consists of a small bundle of hog hairs shoved into the mouth, along with certain magical powders, and then moving the bundle in a highly formalized series of gestures. In addition to the private mouth rite, the people seek out a holy mouth once or twice a year. These practitioners have an impressive set of paraphernalia, consisting of a variety of augurs, owls, probes, and prods. The use of these objects and the exorcisms of evils involves almost unbelievable ritual torture of the client. The holy mouth man opens the client's mouth and, using the above-mentioned tools, enlarges any holes in which decay might be present in the teeth. Magical materials are then put in. If there are no naturally occurring holes in the teeth, large sections of one or more teeth are gorged out so that the supernatural substance can be applied. In the client's view, the purpose of these ministrations is to arrest decay and draw friends. The extremely sacred and traditional character of the rite is evident in the fact that the natives return to the holy mouth men year after year, despite the fact that their teeth continue to decay. It is to be hoped that when a thorough study of the Nakarima is made, there will be careful inquiry into the personality structures of these people. One has but to watch the gleam in the eye of a holy man as he jabs an all exposed nerve to suspect that there is a certain amount of sadism involved. If this can be established, a very interesting pattern emerges, for most of the population shows definite masochistic tendency. Hang on a second, technical difficulties. It was to these that Professor Linton referred in the distinctive part of the daily body rituals, which is performed only by men. This part of the rite involves scraping and lacerating the surface of the face with a sharp instrument. Special women's rites are performed only 4 times during each lunar month, but what they lack in frequency is made up in barbarity. As part of the ceremony, women bake their heads in small ovens for about an hour. The theoretically interesting point is that while there seems to be a preponderance of masochistic people, there seems to have been developed sadistic specialists. The medicine men have an imposing temple, or latispo, in every community of any size. The more elaborate ceremonies required to treat very sick patients can only be performed at this temple. These ceremonies involve not only the thaumaturge, but a permanent group of Vestal maidens who move sedately about the temple chambers in distinctive costume and headdress. The latispo ceremonies are so harsh that it is phenomenal a fair portion of the really sick natives who enter the temple ever recover. Small children whose indoctrination is still incomplete have been known to resist attempts to take them to the temple because that is where you go to die. Despite this fact, sick adults are not only willing but eager to undergo the protracted ritual purification if they can afford to do so. No matter how ill the supplicant or how grave the emergency, the guardians of many temples will not admit a client if he cannot give a rich gift to the custodian. Even after one has gained admission and survived the ceremony, the guardians will not permit the neophyte to leave unless he makes still another gift. The supplicant entering the temple is first stripped of all his or her clothes. In everyday life, the Nakarima avoids exposure of his or her body and its natural functions. Bathing and excretory acts are performed only in the secrecy of the household shrine, where they are ritualized as part of the body rites. Psychological shock results from the fact that bodily secrecy is suddenly lost upon entry into the latispo. Few supplicants at the temple are well enough to do anything but lie on their hard beds. The daily ceremonies, like the rites of mouthmen, involve discomfort and torture. At times, they insert magic wands into the supplicant's mouth or force him to eat substance to be healing. From time to time, the medicine men jab their clients with magically treated needles into their flesh. The fact that these temple ceremonies may not always provide a cure in no way decreases the people's faith in the medicine. There remains one other kind of practitioner known as a listener. This witch doctor has the power to exorcise the devils that lodge in the heads of people who have been bewitched. The Nakarima believe that patients bewitch their children while teaching them secret body rituals. The The counter-magic of the witch doctor is unusual in its lack of ritual. The patient simply tells the listener his troubles and fears, beginning with the earliest difficulties he can remember. The memory displayed by the Nakarima in the exorcism sessions is truly remarkable. It is not uncommon for the patient to bemoan the rejection he felt upon being weaned as a babe, and a few individuals even see their troubles going back to the traumatic events of their own birth. In conclusion, mention must be made of certain practices which have their base in native aesthetics, but which depend upon the pervasive aversion to the natural body and its functions. There are ritual fasts to make fat people thin, and ceremonious feasts to make thin people fat. Still, other rites are used to make women's breasts larger if they are small and smaller if they are large. General dissatisfaction with breast shape is symbolized in the fact that the ideal form is virtually outside the range of human variation. A few women afflicted with almost inhuman hypermemory development are so idolized that they make a handsome living simply by going from village to village and permitting the natives to stare at them for a fee. Reference has already been made to the fact that the extracurricular functions are ritualized, routine, and relegated to secrecy. Natural reproductive functions are tabooed. Intercourse is a taboo topic, and in the past was scheduled as an act. Efforts are made to avoid pregnancy by the use of magical materials or by limiting intercourse to certain phases of the moon. Conception is actually very infrequent. When pregnant, women dress so as to hide their condition. Partition and childbirth take place in secret, without friends or relatives to assist, and the majority of women do not nurse their infants. Our review of the ritual life of the Nakarima has certainly shown them to be a magic-ridden people. It is hard to understand how they managed to exist so long under the burdens which they've imposed upon themselves. But even such exotic customs as these take on real meaning when they're viewed with the insight provided by Malininsky when he wrote in 1948, "Looking from far and above, from our high places of safety in the developed civilization, it is easy to see all the crudity and irrelevance of magic. But without its power and guidance, early man could not have mastered his practical difficulties as he had done. Nor could man have advanced to the higher stages of civilization." Of course, to go back to the other famous quote, any sufficiently advanced science looks like magic.
We are joined
Now,
by Lucian.
I see. Now, Lucian, did you figure out?
I already knew, and I can't.
Oh.
I know you had to have already known. I think we both had that in college. Yeah, I don't know how you could have read all that without laughing, because I was laughing on this end.
I laughed once. I did lose it once.
Yeah, especially I especially had it with shoving hog hair in your mouth, because
yes. Okay, so for those who have not figured it out, if you spell the word rack backwards, it is car. If you spell the word Asu backwards, it is USA. If you spell the word Nakarima backwards, it's American. And if you spell the magic temple names backwards, it's hospital, but it's separated into two words. So, yeah, of course, this article was written back in the 1950s when medicine was much more primitive than it is now, even so. And I actually did have a bit of a hard time not reading the section on early psychology with glee. Because, yes, I'm totally a witch doctor. Mwah! Yes. Hello.
Yeah, a lot of it's definitely dated. I mean, who keeps their medication inside the mirror anymore? I mean,
actually, the most dated part to me was the one about women shoving their heads in ovens, because most women don't use those big beehive hair dryers that they had around back in the 1950s anymore.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Like, I've seen little old ladies using them, but I guess those were around in the 1950s.
I mean, they were technically still around in the early 1990s.
Yeah. I mean, the little old ladies that are still using them were around in the 1950s.
Well, yes, there's that too, but the 1990s ones, that was at least in the... Anyway. So. Ichabod,
Hmm.
did you have anywhere else you wanted this to go?
I think we have another article somewhere. I just have to go find it. Just,
Oh?
talk amongst yourselves
I mean,
for a minute while I find this article.
okay. So, yes. In New Citrus guest, this is Lucian Fatih. He has a YouTube channel that does various gaming things.
I haven't uploaded anything in a long time. My channel's a mess.
Yes,
it isn't really a
mess.
correlated channel. It's just I needed to host this video for something, so I uploaded it to YouTube because that was the easiest place to upload it to. So it's everything I've ever needed to upload in one place, which is random as fuck. Just being honest.
Yes, everything from cat videos to some.
Yeah, actually I think the only thing that's Sonic the Hedgehog on there is when I was doing word UV mapping for 2D sprites. When I was playing around in that sprites to do something quick, my own sprite, the UV map, so I could just do the UV mapping and not do everything from scratch. Since I was just experimenting at the time anyway. I really should have ran with that idea. Live lighting in a 2D game is kind of cool. It's not done very much.
So yes. So any other comments on the articles I just read, or any of the articles previously?
I didn't pick up on I didn't pick up on racks, and I actually was Googling trying to figure out what.
No.
I'd already heard not body ritual from the Nasarema, and that's like famous and been used in college courses for like 30 years.
That's why I read the rack one first, because it's one of the newer follow-ups to it. Yes.
Okay, so I've got this article pulled up. An all-girl esports team in Japan apologized to fans after learning that one of their members is actually a man. The team, Whip, originally played Call of Duty before branching out to other titles, including Fortnite, Overwatch, and Final Fantasy. Whip has been adopting an all-girl membership policy, which went down the drain when one man managed to make the team by concealing his gender. Why are there so many goddamn pictures in this article? There it is. Last week, their leader, who goes by the username Peroru, broke the news and apologized to fans on Twitter, according to Sora News 24. We recently made the discovery that one of our members was a man. The person is no longer a member, but even though all of our current members were unaware of his being a man, we feel deeply apologetic toward anyone who has been cheering for us. Moving forward, we aim to provide even more of the excitement you all expect from us as a girls' gaming team. We sincerely hope that we can continue to have your support. Because they play online games, WHIP members do not necessarily have to meet in person when working together. It is unclear how the man hid his gender, but netizens are speculating that he must have used voice alteration software when filming gameplays. Twitter users reacted to the shocking revelation. Even a boy can become a princess. Did you not notice until now? What did you actually notice? What? Is there a legitimate reason to discriminate? It cannot be helped if you are a gamer. Real AKB49. I don't get those references, but there it is. This article came from nextshark.com.
Well, since this person wasn't actually intending to be trans, all of the traps or gay jokes are now open. Please feel free to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo with them. Actually, the rest of my brain is just going, so...
I'm not sure that it matters that much. I mean, I guess if you're really wanting to keep an all-female thing because you're going girl power and and women are underrepresented, I can kind of see why you would want to discriminate and be certain that it's all female. But on the other hand, it just kind of seems superfluous.
Yeah.
Being integrated is better for progressiveness than being discriminatory.
Yeah.
Even positive discrimination, quote unquote.
I can only assume that had it been an all-male team, they would not have minded nearly as much. It would have just been the group that
Yeah,
goes,
if there was a girl who snuck in, yeah.
well, I guess they're good enough to stay on the team. They were already part of the team. Why does it matter?
That thing about a girl Ian kind of reminds me of the fact that, love him or hate him, there is a joke going around that apparently Mike Pence, back when he ran for Congress, hated the Disney movie Mulan because of its promotion of women in the military. Like, really? You're gonna hate on Mulan? Really? If she's good enough to do that, just let her be. I mean, that's not lowering standards for women. She met him. Yeah. Okay, so the $1 million butt question I was going to ask is right out the window because that one was for Wolfie.
As a note, it is time for that segment of the show. So, if you in the chat have a $1 million butt or would you rather question, feel free to pose it. Make sure to tag who you are asking. I'm Ichabod. We also have Bridge Building Heathen, and of course Lucian in here at the moment. Feel free to ask a couple if you'd like, Bridge or Lucian.
I'm trying to adapt one a bit. Although I've got a few back ones saved. I can just use those as go-tos. If Lucian wants to ask one while I'm going to go get mine, he can do that.
Wolfie says that he will answer the question.
In the chat? He'll answer the question I had from him in the chat?
Yeah. I guess.
I could save it for the next time. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Either way,
yeah, I would be comfortable asking one, but I don't want to open it because, I haven't been here before and I'm not quite comfortable.
You're fine. You can ask any question.
I got dunked in my very first time on here with a terrible question or two. So, I mean, the very first question I was asked involved, it's like, would you rather have Anita Sarkeesian preaching at you while Zoe Quinn goes down on you while they're both wearing top hats, or I'm trying to even remember what the other one was. It was something. Oh, right, take the Great American Challenge. If you don't know what that is, Lucian.
Yeah, there was too much jargon there. I don't.
The Great American Challenge is a very large dildo that is over 2 soda cans thick.
Yeah.
Even your Winston. That tells me everything, right? Yeah, just right there. and that was my first experience of getting one of these on this show. And you know me, I mean, not probably, I did totally like go, what? What have I walked into? Where am I?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh God, my mind's going into like furry perv questions.
Oh Jesus.
Okay.
I don't know about this. Neither of us are furries.
Oh. I guess it just came to mind with the
Raccoon avatar.
Yeah.
Ichabod's not a furry. We get
Okay.
teased about him having a fursona, but it doesn't make him a furry.
Okay. God.
Let's see. Okay.
Bridge.
Let's do this one for.
Like,
Yeah, Wolfie's written
yeah,
one.
there's one in the chat. Bridge, would you like seeing your guest take the wolf god dick, or get fucked by a splintery board?
My guest, does he mean Lucian?
I assume so.
I think Lucian would probably enjoy the wolf. I know Lucian quite well.
Yeah, I am a little bit of a furry.
plus, I know your taste. Wolfie would be to your taste. Even though you're usually top. Well, yeah, no, yeah, no. I'll just leave you.
Yeah. Okay, if we're gonna get explicit here, yes, and usually top. I will go the other way with the right foreplay and fingering and all that.
I was thinking you were gonna go the other way for the right guy. I wasn't gonna take it all the way there.
Sorry.
This isn't Wolfie's deviant stream. I mean, you can take it there. I'm sure it could. I don't know. It's Ichabod's show. I don't know.
Fine.
All right. Okay. This one can be for both of you. $1 million, but you have to go through grade school again, either as a young person all over again, but either way, you remember it. So you still remember having been through it the first time, but you have to go through it a second time. But you can pick how.
I don't see the downside. I mean, if you get to be a young person again, that means maybe having a better high school experience.
I mean, you still have to remember your. Also, in this day and age, you have to think about the fact, high schools these days are kind of crazy. And not in a good way.
Aren't they always, though?
Yeah, but it's like social justice up the wall.
Well, it's better than homophobia up the wall.
So you're going back to school. Ichabod. You?
Sure.
$1 million? Huh? Alright.
Lucian, do you have a question?
I can't think of one at the moment.
That's fine.
Ichabod, do you have one that you don't somehow wrangle up?
No,
I know it's hard.
Have one. So I guess I'll close out the show here. Thank you everybody for coming to tune in to Citrus Quest. Be sure to check out Lucian and Bridge. I'm sure I'll put the link in the description later or something.
Yeah, Bridge Building Heathen too, if you search for me. So Bridge Heathen on Twitter. And Lucian is just Lucian Fatigue.
God, this is gonna take forever to load. Oh, Christ. But thank you guys for, oh my god, just fucking load. Ugh. Yay, outro music's being a pain in the ass, so you all have to hear me be frustrated. Feel free to talk in the background while this goes into starting to fucking play, maybe? Oh my god. File system error. I don't even know what the... My mild irritation is slowly starting to set in. There it goes. Good night, folks.